Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the daily Manchester United podcast. We are 20 minutes after the full-time whistle went in Bilbao tonight. I am joined by Tom Coherence. This is not a good evening. This is not a good season, Tom. What's your initial reaction here?
I'm absolutely gutted, but I can't say that I'm surprised because this is an epitome of our season.
Mm-hmm.
We have fallen so far away from where we needed to have been. Yes, we've done well to get to the final, getting past the likes of Real Sociedad, Leon, Athletic Bilbao of all teams, but I just don't know where the finesse had gone. I just don't know where it's gone, and now we're facing a summer where we don't know who's going to want to come to United. And then the bigger picture of it all is, where does that leave the club? Where does it leave it? I just don't know where we sit next season. In a campaign next time out where we could have half of the Premier League playing in Europe and not one of those teams being us. It is absolutely embarrassing, Niall. I cannot believe watching that game of football. It wasn't even a good game of football in general, because from the moment Tottenham scored, I knew that they were going to camp in their own half for the remainder of that game. This is like what happened in the FA Cup final 7 years ago, where we lost to Chelsea. Gave away a penalty, Hazard scored it, and Chelsea camped in their own half for the remainder of the match. Tottenham did exactly the same thing. They knew that the one goal was what they needed, and they didn't need to push. They created nothing in that second half, whereas we piled on the pressure, but the quality just wasn't there. We had no quality in the final third at all. Did we deserve to lose tonight? It's subjective, but I don't think we played well enough to win. Not in my book.
No, absolutely not. It's horrible. I'm just watching the scenes here of Spurs lifting the cup. I still have it on here just to kind of feel the emotion even more for this episode. But coming into this game, I was very nervous and very scared about the outcome of it. I was kind of relying on a bit of history, a bit of I suppose Spursiness, and a bit of United in the European final, and kind of relying on this kind of notion that United will show up in a big game and somehow get over the line. But you're just brought straight back to reality where, like, exactly like you said, it isn't surprising. Like, the standard of the football throughout the season has been horrific. You mentioned we didn't have any quality in the final third this evening, but it's been the case throughout the season. The lack of goals, the lack of chances created. Once Danso came on in the last 20 minutes, they went to a back five. You were like, "What? There's no way we're going to get a goal here. Like, there'll be no gaps in behind. We won't be able to kind of create anything to actually get a decent opportunity." And it was at that stage just kind of a ticking clock, I suppose, to the inevitable. And the best chance we had, and you were nearly clamouring for it earlier, was putting Maguire up front. And that is the position we're in now, where that is the best chance we have of getting a goal. And it's not even a last ditch. It's a move now that we're using, where we're putting him in with 15 minutes to go up front. And it just kind of sums up the whole season, really. And the reason why I was so nervous about the game beforehand is this is so much bigger than just a cup win or a cup competition. It just sets the club back so far. It's going to add another few seasons on top of this somewhat kind of a hope of we're going to get back to a position of power in the league, and it's just added a couple of years onto that with that result today, and I can't really see any different, Tom.
Now the pendulum swings, who's willing to stick around? That's what each of these Man United players needs to answer for themselves. look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, right, do I want to be a Manchester United player next season? Consider we're not playing in Europe at all. I can see Casemiro moving on.
I can't though, because they're on too much money, Tom. This is the issue. We can't get rid of them. They'll happily stay for another couple of years, those guys that are on those big wages. And that's the issue. We can't shift enough of these players to start again and to get that rebuild going. And yes, we won't be able to attract players now because we're not in Champions League football, but half the problem, and more than half the problem, is getting rid of so many players that are in this squad.
It begs the question, are we an elite side now? I feel for those fans who have travelled all the way to Bilbao, especially those who have booked the hotels or were lucky enough to even book a bed inside a prison. Because I think there was some fans that were lucky enough to pay, was it 400 quid for 2 nights, staying in like a double bunk bed that would normally be used in a prison over in Bilbao. And you've got even those sleeping on a bench because they couldn't get a hotel or a bed whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I feel like those fans are being, I don't want to say robbed, but real hard done by. That is not a Manchester United performance in a cup final. That really is not. And those fans are going to be heartbroken. They're absolutely going to be heartbroken. Now, some Man United fans may feel that Amrin needs to move on, but Amrin's not the problem.
No.
What was Amrin supposed to do from the moment he walked in there in November? He didn't even want to join in November.
Yep.
He wanted to join in the summer. So how can you blame Amrin for just simply walking into an absolute mess, of which that was left over by Erik ten Hag, who lost his job on the back of playing Anthony all the time, when he clearly wasn't fit for purpose for Manchester United anyway. And now he's got a cup final of his own to come next week against Chelsea, where he could be lifting a trophy of his own, which will add even more insult to injury.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame Amram. It's still down to the players. It's been the players for years. In a way, maybe this is revision history, but I don't even blame Ten Hag either. I think the issue is just way bigger. At some stage, you have to look at the players and go, the quality's just not there. And the luck ran out. That Lyon game, as a fan, was just incredible. Like, that moment was just those 5, 6, 7 minutes of madness where we got the 2 or 3 goals was absolutely mental. But you just knew today was inevitable. As you mentioned, when they went back into that low block, there was no way we were going to create. Ali McCoist there was clamoring for Garnacho coming on at halftime and praising him when he kind of took on his defender a couple of times. If you're relying on players like that coming off the bench, Garnacho and Xerxes was the big throw of the dice, and you're looking going, that's it. That's the best we have at the moment. And yes, the Man United badge is on the jersey, but the quality of player of what you'd expect of a Man United player is just not there. And we've said that all season. And the only reason why I had any hope of coming into this game was because it was a final, relying on the history, being that kind of, I suppose, very optimistic United fan. But if you really take away all the emotion from it, Spurs are just a way better team. We spoke about it before, about the players that they have compared to United are just better if you were to pick a combined team. So we're really facing the cold front of it now, I think, and after that final whistle this evening.
And how are the fans going to feel on Sunday at Old Trafford?
Sure, the excuse about the bad performances in the Premier League has been, well, at least we have the Europa League. So with that logic, we should have a great performance against Villa at the weekend, but I can see that being a hammering. An absolute hammering. Villa going for a Champions League and us licking the wounds after this evening in Bilbao. That could get very ugly very quickly. And depending on who actually puts up their hand from a United player and says, I want to play that game, it'll be interesting to see what team goes out that Amram picks. Is it going to be a similar team that played the final, or is it going to be, let's just play all the kids? I think I'd want those players that played tonight to step up and put in a performance. It's at Old Trafford, isn't it? Or is it away from home?
It's
at Old Trafford to round out this horrific season and thank the fans, I suppose, for the commitment, because I'm sure a lot of them that'll be in Old Trafford were at Bilbao tonight. And as you mentioned, the game was absolutely horrendous. Like, you know, there was people texting me that were neutrals as well, going, why did I bother tuning into this game? Like, there was no rhythm or no fluidity at all to it. Spurs won't care, but United should have been able to rise to that performance tonight, and it was absolutely miles off it, just like any league game we've had this year.
I can imagine the protests looming large over Old Trafford on Sunday. You know, on days like this where nothing matters to United now going into the match, the fans are just going to pour and pour and pour into their sort of marches, saying that it's time to sell the club because the DNA in the club has gone. The Glazers showed no interest in making Manchester United a success, but I just, something's got to change. No, something's got to change. You know, we can't just carry on into next season. There's no excuse for us finishing 16th at the end of next season, given the fact that we are not playing in Europe at all. That will get Amorim sacked. Mm-hmm. And I agree with what Stephen Howson said, that if he ended up finishing 9th in the league, I think he would go. If he ended up finishing 10th in the league, I think he would go. And I don't think even a cup, on top of finishing where we are in those particular positions, will be enough to keep his job. We have to learn what happened with Erik ten Hag.
Exactly.
Yeah, if we can't pick ourselves up next season, it's just going to be another dogged campaign. We aren't going to get the players that we need. I mean, would Liam Delap want to join Manchester United now? Given that Newcastle, who had joined the race to sign him, you know, given the fact that Callum Wilson is probably going to move on from Newcastle, someone to replace Wilson, and Liam Delap is probably going to be the one that Newcastle are going to go for. I can't see United getting Liam Delap. Obviously, we know that Matheus Cunha, he's going to join Man United by the looks of it, regardless of what happened tonight. But if there's someone to be counted, Matheus Cunha could be the one to answer some of the questions, but most certainly not all of them.
No, absolutely. And tonight wasn't about the cup, like I mentioned at the start. It's the reason why, like I mentioned, I was so scared was because it was way more than that. It's the Champions League, it's the money, it's the situation that the club's in financially is just horrendous. And this would have been such an important thing going into next season to have. And like you said, we can't get blinded by the trophies. And you'd nearly rather we don't win a cup next year and finish way higher in the league, because, you know, the Ten Hag situation where you win a couple of trophies masks everything. And in a way, it's good that this win didn't happen tonight, where it can mask such a horrendous season. But then you have the knock-on effect of not having Champions League football and not being able to attract the players. So it is... it's a very low moment, I think, in being a fan of this club, and it's difficult to see a lot of positives going into next season in particular. We'll take a quick break here, and we'll have to discuss some of the moments from this game this evening after this one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
We mentioned that it was an extremely stop-start game, very scrappy. For a neutral, horrendous. For us, it was just nerve-wracking until that first goal went in. And there was a cross in before that Richarlison played, and I was thinking we should have got out and closed that down a lot quicker. And the exact same thing happens again, where a ball comes in from the left-hand side, and Mazraoui just doesn't close out at all with any sort of urgency. Doesn't even actually from where he was, maybe almost 10 meters away from the ball, doesn't even put out a leg, but isn't sprinting, especially when you have 4 defenders behind you in a back 5 where we're pinned back in the box. You do have the license to go and press because you do have cover in behind. There's absolutely no excuse for it. And then it's a decent cross. Maguire leaves it. There's a mix-up in the box between Shaw and the goalkeeper. And then does Brennan get a touch? I don't even know. He's going to claim that he did. It looked like he might have got a very, very faint touch to it. And Onana could have done better. I mean, Tom, you were messaging in the group chat. You said just the defending and the chemistry was just all over the place.
It was just so sloppy to watch. It's like a typical goal you would see on a Sunday league pitch. I mean, this is a European final that we were watching. That it's the kind of the cross didn't even go in with that amount of quality from Sarr who put that in for Johnson to get a touch on it. It was a total mess of which neither Maguire or Shaw were able to deal with. And the fact that Mazraoui just couldn't defend it when he was supposed to close down Sarr. And you alluded to the fact that Mazraoui just showed no sense of urgency to just put a leg out and stop that ball from going in the box. That just sums up Manchester United's season in the way that they've defended and the lack of killer instincts. Some things have got to change for next season. Either the players have got to show that they care for the club, or maybe perhaps they do care, but the problem is they don't even realise that maybe virtually all of those players that we've got now are squad players at best. We've hardly got a world-class player in our side. Now, we will probably say that Bruno Fernandes, as good as he is, he kind of like sneaks in between a squad player and a world-class player. But that's the best that we've got.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's somewhere in the middle there, but he's just under world class, I would say. Yeah. He's very, very good. He's excellent, but yeah, I agree in the world class category.
Do you remember those days when you wake up on a Saturday or a Sunday and you always look forward to see Manchester United play, no matter who it is they go up against, or even on a Monday night, or even during the week when it's the Champions League, and you feel so relaxed about seeing Manchester United play, in front of, 75,000 or so at Old Trafford. Those days are gone. Yeah. I know we've got to move with the times, but we're nowhere near what we used to be, and it's a fact. And the Glazers have basically sucked the life, heart, and soul out of the football club. I just can't begin to feel. Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely dejected, livid, quite frankly, that we just can't enjoy those days anymore.
Dejected is the word. I don't really know how to describe this emotion because I'm just kind of thinking of, obviously it's disappointing to lose this evening, but like I keep going back to, this is just extending the period of time where United can't get things back on track. And everything was reliant on this because of how bad the season was. It was nearly, right, let's just ignore that. Hopefully we just get some glimmer of hope from this Europa League. And it's just so bad. And it's funny you mentioned about the good old days. Like, I mean, I do remember thinking back, just they never really lost. Like, even though they did lose, you always felt like, yeah, but every game they're going to win. It's kind of like Liverpool this year and City over the last 5 years. You go into the weekend going, oh yeah, they're going to win. Like they'll win as a guaranteed win. And to even get back competing with the Brentfords, Brighton, even Palace now in the league, like these teams, every time we came up and we did these reviews and we did these previews all year on this podcast, every weekend it was, this is going to be a tough one. Like, they can't all be tough, but they are, because we're so poor and because we are that bad. And you're even looking at Liverpool-Brighton the last day, and I'm not even looking at Liverpool. I'm looking at Brighton, and I'm looking at the quality they have around the pitch and the organisation of them and the pace of play and the quality they have in wide areas, and, you know, how technical their players are and how much they're all together and working in same patterns of play. And this is Brighton. And United are absolutely nowhere near that. Nowhere near it. And one transfer window won't help it. A change of manager won't help it. An influx of 200 million won't help it. It's a whole kind of psyche change, and it's multiple transfer windows, and it's a proper kind of project and dedicated to this project from academies through the first team. I don't know where to start with how to fix this. You know, we mentioned when Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in and when Ineos came in, and those kind of big kind of hires, I suppose, in the boardroom, thinking, okay, well, seems to be the right decisions going on here in terms of getting the right personnel in. We haven't really seen much of an impact. When you look at their first 6 to 12 months in there, there's been a lot of chopping and changing. There's been a lot of back and forth as well between the people that they've hired and then got rid of. They don't really seem to have everything under control in their own boardroom. And as you mentioned, Amarim is only in the door with a bunch of players that are bang average, trying to play an unorthodox system compared to what every other team plays at the moment. And I really, really am struggling to find something to hold on to going into this summer and going into next season, Tom.
We only need a couple of months to really digest everything, don't we? I mean, to be honest, how we've already digested enough as we have done, but you're going into next season. I mean, now that we're not playing in Europe at all, we're in the second round of the League Cup, aren't we? We don't even earn that buy into round 3. Remember MK Dons? Yeah, I thought so. This is going to be a long summer. You know, you've got Chelsea and Man City who are playing in the FIFA Club World Cup, the revamped version of it. Those two are bound to get players of which they need for next season. Rodri, who came back last night for the first time, I think, since September when he got that, was it an ACL injury? Yeah. They left him out for a long time. City needed him, and they'll be happy that he's back. Whereas in terms of the leverage we have, well, what leverage have we got? If we had the leverage of which the likes of Man City and Chelsea have, we'd be easily in the top half of the table at the very, very minimum. We're 16th. And it could well be 17th by the time the game against Villa is over. And I'm worried about what next season's going to bring, because obviously we've got the likes of Leeds, Burnley, and either Sheffield United or Sunderland, you know, bound to go up. Can you imagine if we finish below Leeds in the table? That's going to hurt if that ends up being the case. There's no excuse for finishing 16th in the table with the squad of players that we've got. There's just got to be a change of identity within the football club, and there's zero right now.
I said it earlier on, when you're looking at United, if you take away the badge and you take away kind of the history, etc., and you look at the actual, just the raw players on the pitch, like, should we be doing much better based on the squad we have? Like, are we completely overhyping some of these players? Not this year, but maybe going into the season, we were very optimistic, probably blinded by the FA Cup result as well. Like, last year was a very poor season as well. But, you know, when you compare it and you start to do combined 11s with teams you're playing at the weekend and stuff, are they really that good? And are they good enough to get us back to where we need to be? And I think the questions have been answered this year. Like, and you can say that we had a couple of injuries, but every team has injuries, and it didn't really affect us that much, to be honest. Like, we were still rubbish when we had other players anyway. So it's a difficult one to kind of put your finger on. It's just, it's funny you mentioned Leeds as well. I was thinking about this during the season. You know, could United turn into a bit of a Leeds where you have a really successful club that was dominant for years and just mismanaged and then just falls down the football tiers? I mean, United have no right to be in the Premier League more than anyone else. If we're finishing 16th this year, we don't have anything to strive for in terms of leverage, as you mentioned, in terms of getting good players in, good top quality players in to bring us up that table. The main competitors we had down there were Spurs. Spurs are after getting that leverage this evening. The teams below us, they're going down. 3 new teams coming in, chomping at the bit, thinking, yeah, we could have a cut at United. Definitely. Look at Southampton this year. We beat them twice. Both games, the first game, they missed a penalty, and then we won 3-0. It was pretty ropey up until that. And then the second game, we should have lost, and Ahmad just turned into a bit of magic for the last 10 minutes. There's no team where you're thinking, yeah, that's an easy win. And that's not going to change next season now. And that really, really concerns me. And that is why tonight, I can't hide how important tonight was, not for the cup win, but for the money and for the Champions League, which is quite a sad thing to say as a fan, but it's the stark reality of it, Tom.
We're going to go into every single game next season, once every week, just praying we come away with a positive result. I even remember the 2014-15 season where we were just waiting for an age for the match to arrive, and you don't really know what kind of team is going to turn up and perform. 2025-26 is going to be a repeat of it, but it's going to be even worse than what it was back then in 2014-15. That season, we finished 4th. We got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and we were knocked out by MK Dons in the League Cup in round 2. We just can't feel confident going into next season at all, because, yeah, I could maybe agree with what you're saying. It's hard to move these players on. The wage bill is too lucrative to them.
Yeah.
But it's the owner's responsibility to look into that and think which players need to be moved on, which are not. And the things with the Glazers, they're not football people. They have no form of expertise about football whatsoever. I mean, Ed Woodward, who was there a few years back before he's left now, thankfully, he always felt he knew more than anyone else. He wasn't a David Gill. He wasn't a Martin Edwards who had a football mentality in regards to who they knew needed to be brought in, and Sir Alex knew who he needed to bring in, aligning with what the owners wanted. That's why we were successful before the Glazers had arrived. The reason why we were successful in the first 8 years of the Glazers' tenure was because the players we had, most of which were signed before the Glazers took over, the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Rio Ferdinand, Wayne Rooney, those type of players, really. Now, we're only good enough to sign loanees. We signed Patrick Dorgu from Lecce. He has been oppressive, and I do rate him, but he's a squad player. He's not a world-class player.
And we're relying on him. I think he is good, but tonight we were really relying on him to produce something. And then I go back to the bench. You're looking for a bit of spark, and you have Xerxes, Garnacho, and Dallo coming on. It just epitomizes where we are. We just don't have the quality. And the annoying thing is, even though we have no leverage, which actually adds into it more, United always overpay for players. We have Ugarte, I don't know how much he was, 55-60 million, sitting on the bench. I think, in my opinion, deservedly. But we have to pay 50-60 million for people that are okay and have to sit on the bench. And we need to buy world-class players to even get back up the table, and it just won't be fixed. The kind of line that's been saying this year is, well, Amram doesn't have his players yet. Once Amram has his players, and it's but how many is he going to get? Also, surely he should be getting something out of these players as well. But I don't know. I think the issue is too big to fix in a year. It's just, as I said, push it out further and further, and I'm just, it's pretty bleak. We'll take one quick break here, and then we'll try and go through maybe some of the player performances from this evening, Tom.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
I think instead of going through the player performances, should we do a bit of an in-out of the players?
Yeah.
Since we're kind of, if we were in control of player contracts, I suppose, regardless of what the reality is of being able to shift players, not being able to shift players, what would you actually go with? I mean, first of all, Onana, Tom.
I'd probably maybe give him one more season, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if they signed another goalkeeper just to help give him some competition and wake him up a little bit. That would be what United should think about, but the priority is more on the attacking line rather than just pointing the finger at Onana. His flexes aren't great. That's the issue with him, and I think tonight was another example of that, even though I don't blame him entirely for the goal. If that was Van der Sar or De Gea even, De Gea would have pounded that away.
Yeah, his arms seem short. Like, Pickford gets a lot of abuse for it, but he seems like he can never reach the ball when it's in the corners or when it's kind of slightly off center, and he seems to be diving nearly as if he's lagging, like he's 1 second behind it, because he always has a big dramatic dive. But I don't think there was too much he could have done for this evening's goal, but it just looked messy and looked like he probably could have, and a better keeper probably could have parried it away at some stage. I would agree. I would definitely want us to sign a goalkeeper to put pressure on him and eventually take it over from him. I think fine as a number 2. I don't think he'd suit being a number 2. I don't think he'd like it. I don't think his personality would be good for it. But in an ideal scenario, he probably leaves and we bring someone in. Yaro, I thought he was really good tonight. I really like him, and I like him for the future.
He didn't have a bad game, to be fair. I didn't think Yoro. I think he was kind of, I don't think he had a bad game at all.
No. Maguire, I think he's come on a lot of criticism over the years. I think he's really stepped up, actually. He's playing with so much, like, maturity and, like, as if he doesn't care anymore what anyone thinks, because he used to kind of, you could see it kind of got to him, but he's just kind of, he's gone through the absolute mill or through the ringer with abuse, and I think the last 6 months he's actually been pretty good considering how bad we've been. So I would keep.
I'd keep him for now, given that we've got quite a plethora of centre halves, and I think Maguire earns his place to be in a lot of those games. So yeah, I'd say keep him for now.
Shaw, what do you think?
He needs to go. He's done. I think his performance tonight was just short of where he once was. Yeah.
He's just a shell of a player. Like, he's just never fit. He wasn't fit this evening either. Obviously, he nearly got that goal at the end, but no, just way off it. I think his time's up. Mazraoui has been good this season, but I was really disappointed with some of the defending this evening, especially for the couple of crosses that went into the box. Like, I just don't understand. There's literally no excuse for it. You saw at the end how Spurs defended like absolute dogs, not in the centre, but on the flanks. United were constantly passing it over and back, trying to get some space to get across in, just killing the clock completely. And you have to put those hard yards in, shutting down angles for crosses, for Ahmad, for Dallo, for Garnacho, for Shaw, constantly going over and back. How he can't rush the defender in the 30th minute, 40th minute of the game, there's just no excuse for it. So I was disappointed this evening, but maybe as a squad player, we should keep him.
Yeah, well, we have to keep him because, he had a stinker of a game tonight. But there have been a lot of games where I think he has actually turned up. So let's not use tonight as a bit of a emphasis of his season because it's not. He just didn't turn up when it mattered. But I'd keep Masraoui.
He has been one of our better players this year. You are right. Dallo.
I think overall he's had a poor season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think there's only been a few games at most where I thought he actually put in quite a decent performance. I think because we're lacking in options, I'd keep him. Because we have been playing Masraoui in centre half, whilst having Dallo as the right wing back. And I think you need to continue having that until you know you can get someone that's better than either of them.
Mm-hmm. I would say go, but then who do you bring in? That's the question.
Who do you get to replace him? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I just Munoz from Crystal Palace, recency bias, but just nowhere near where we need to be to get back to where we need to be. So I would say go. Dorgu, we mentioned, he's only 20. I think he tries really hard. He's a decent touch. He made some good tackles this evening as well. And I think since he's come in, he's done decent. I think he's been thrown into the deep end with no real protection. So I would say keep as a squad player.
I do as well. I don't think Dorgu needs to be moved on anywhere. I think he's only had 6 months to really gel into a Manchester United system, which I don't think was exactly. I don't know how you compare it to how he played for Lecce, but Dorgu, I think, is one of our better players. And as a left wing back, we were so desperate for a left wing back to fill in for Shaw because we kept playing Dallo in that left wing back role, and he was absolutely garbage to watch there. Yeah. So the fact we signed Dorgu, who's a more designated, recognised left wing back, we need to keep him.
Mm-hmm. Casemiro.
I know you said that you would keep him. He had a woeful start to the season. I think it depends if there are any offers from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Because we need to build for the future. Casemiro can't stay at the club forever. And the thing is, he has the highest wage bill out of any Manchester United player that's there right now.
This is the issue. We won't be able to shift him. And he's going to run out. He's going to run out his contract, 100%. I mean, rightly so, but it's just an extortionate amount of money. And you're right. He's not the future of the club. He has been putting in good performances in the Europa League, but he needs to go at some stage. We need to start building up this midfield again because it really has never been replaced properly. Ugarte.
Keep.
I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan. I don't know. I would get rid.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I think Ugarte would settle in nicely. If you end up losing Casemiro, you need to make sure you keep Ugarte. And I think Ugarte has actually been all right in that defensive midfield role. I know he hasn't always had the best of games, but I think he actually does try to perform and actually does put in the effort. I do agree that he is a squad player at best right now, but I definitely wouldn't get rid of him.
Yeah. No, I made up my mind earlier on him and I've kind of just stuck with it. But anyway, who else? Manu. I don't know where he plays. I don't know what position he plays anymore. In a 4-2-3-1, I thought I knew in one of those kind of two midfield positions. Now I don't know with this new system. I have no idea where he fits in.
Well, I definitely wouldn't get rid of him. I think he's someone who can try and make things happen, especially when he comes off the bench. We knew he wasn't going to be match fit with Kobe Manu, but I think he's someone that needs to stick around for a little bit longer just to see where he can actually settle into the system. because I don't know who Amorim's going to sign other than Matheus Cunha that we know of at the time of recording.
Yeah, I do think he will, and he should focus on the two deeper midfielders, because the profile player of Cunha will play in the number 10. I don't think Manu is athletic enough actually to play in that position in terms of the amount of running off the ball with the ball you need to be, run out to the wing, play in the pockets as well. I think he's more comfortable when he's kind of playing the game when it's in front of him and at his own pace. So I think, yeah, he should hopefully settle into those deeper of the two positions. Mount.
Keep.
I like Mount.
I do. I definitely give him one more season at minimum to see how.
He needs a run of games, doesn't he?
He needs a run of games, and I think if he has a run of games, we can start to see the amount of what we saw from him when he was at Chelsea. But given the restricted amount of options we've got, it'd be silly to get rid of Mount now.
Yeah. Bruno.
Keep. 100%. I don't think that's a question, really, is it?
Yeah. Ahmad.
Keep.
Yep. Garnacho.
Keep.
I don't think I'd keep Garnacho if I
Really?
got a decent offer. Yeah. I don't think so. I think anything, I'd say 40 mil. I would get rid of Garnacho if an offer came in for 40 mil. 35, 40 mil maybe. I think we've seen enough. Like, I don't know. I think I had the hopes that, I think Ahmad has played less, got less opportunities, and has just done so much more than Garnacho in the games he's played. And we do have limited options on the left-hand side. I get that. But if I'm kind of taking that away and I'm thinking Cunha's playing next year, Garnacho's just going to be a squad player. And I'd rather get money for kind of someone buying him for potential, I suppose. Because I don't know. I don't really see it. But I can understand you looking to keep him as well. Who else do we have? Xerxes.
I'd give him one more season because I think he needs to start over Højlund now in these games heading into next season. I want to see what he can actually do.
Yeah, I think if we sign a striker or maybe two strikers in the summer, I think as his third striker, yeah, a squad player, he's good. It's so frustrating, the rotation between him and Højlund this year. It's like Højlund plays well off the bench, Xerxes starts, doesn't play well, and then the opposite happened, and then they just kept switching in and out the whole season. But even when he came on this evening, like, his touch is just so much better than Højlund, and playing in that system when you have runners in behind, it was brilliant. Like, that one decent chance we got for Bruno's header, the ball goes in, Xerxes plays it first time to Mazraoui, and Mazraoui crosses it in for Bruno to have a diving header at goal. His touch was just so much better. Højlund was just taking 3-4 touches when you just don't get it. So, yeah, I like him as a footballer. I just don't know. I don't know if he can start for United next season. But I would keep him. Højlund.
Tata is what I'd say. He's just. I'd make if it means sending him out on loan, then so be it. But he just does not bring the qualities of a Manchester United striker into there. He's probably one of the worst strikers I think Manchester United have ever had, because he doesn't control the ball very well. He can't pass the ball.
No,
and it's just his lack of awareness whenever he's on the ball. He's nowhere near confident.
Yeah, I feel like I've given him a lot of chances. Like, we had a whole chat about Højlund, and we seem to have a chat about Højlund quite a lot, actually, about maybe not getting consistent service, doesn't really know where the ball is going to be. But he always seems to be fighting with the defender in terms of like fighting for position, never seems to be in control of what he's doing. And then he always seems to be like a second late to the ball. You know, I was just there. But I was like, at some stage, you've got to be there, like when the ball is coming in. And it just happens way too frequent, I think. And yeah, if he's your third striker, fair enough. But in terms of like, if we're relying on him, not a hope. Like we're going nowhere. Like we've seen this year. Who else do we have?
We've got Victor Lindelof.
Yeah, surely he's going, is he? No.
Yeah, I can't see him sticking around. Johnny Evans will be moving on. Christian Eriksen.
Yeah, he's leaving as well.
I think he's leaving, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got Chidobe, who I think is destined to feature a lot next season. I think
I hope not, because I hope we're actually signing a striker. But
I agree with that, Niall. But who are United going to sign that
I don't know.
That's going to align with the number of goals?
This is the reality. Yeah.
I would give Chidobe some games to see how he can do. But I do agree we need to sign a striker. But then you've got someone like Chidobe who can come on and make things happen. If you can get a lot of game time, particularly like maybe in the cup games or whatever, we've got someone who can actually make things happen and actually contribute in a more positive fashion. Whereas if we end up splashing out 70 million quid on a striker who happens to be a similar feat to what Rasmus Højlund has ended up in the last couple of seasons, really, it's just going to be deja vu.
No, I know. I get that. And we don't really have that to be thrown around, I suppose. But I haven't seen enough to be convinced at all that he can start matches in the Premier League next year for us if we're trying to get back. But we're limited options. I mean, we have to face the reality now after tonight's results. Like we have no leverage, as you keep saying, and you're dead right. Who else do we have in that squad, Tom? Do we need to touch on?
Altay Bioniq, goalkeeper.
I mean, if he's doing keeper training sessions with Tom Heaton, I have no issue with him being at the club. But in terms of playing, no. And I don't like our goalkeeper options at the moment, to be honest.
I don't either. And I think he's proven that he's just not the standards of what Man United needs to be. I mean, he's not a Thomas Kuszczak type goalkeeper. He's not world class, but can actually put in a decent performance. I mean, I remember Thomas Kuszczak when he saved Gilberto's penalty when we played Arsenal all those years back at Old Trafford. Or even Ben Foster, when Ben Foster was over at Old Trafford for a period of time. Bioniq is not even to that standard of what Ben Foster was when he was there, and maybe not even to what our third goalkeeper was. And our third goalkeeper for a little bit was Tom Heaton, of all players. But there just needs to be. There's just too many players who are surplus to requirements there, and it just feels like we have to hold on to them until we just say bye-bye to them and allow them to, retire or head out to another club on a free.
A couple of interesting ones to finish with. Anthony.
Get rid. He's done.
I hope he wins that cup. I hope he wins that cup. I hope he scores the winning goal and someone comes in even just for half of what we paid, 45. Someone comes in with 45. So how low would the fee have to be, Tom, for you to say yes on the Anthony deal for him to go somewhere?
I mean, how much did we pay for him? Was it 80?
90.
Was it 90? Jeez. Would do well to even get 25.
Would you take 20 for him?
I think to move him on, yeah, I would do. And then just gets him off our wage bill.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it's rough, but
it's yeah, you can take what you get.
Yeah.
Sancho,
move him on. His attitude stinks.
Yeah, I think he'll struggle for a club next year, to be honest. He's been poor at Chelsea as well. So I don't know. And finally, and I know we're almost at 50 minutes and it's late and it's been a depressing evening, but Rashford.
I wouldn't allow him back into it. I'm fed up with his,
circus around it.
Just his off-field stuff when he's allowed himself to get into the headlines, into the paparazzi and all that, when he was due to be training with the squad and even playing matches, and all he's doing is, making trips over to Belfast or over into the US and just making a name of himself for the wrong reasons. And I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up. If Sir Alex was around and he knew that players were doing that, he wouldn't hang around. He would just say to them, "We've accepted an offer from whoever and you'll be going." And even, I think Teddy Sheringham said this on a podcast once. I think both he and Dwight York went to play some golf on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And Sir Alex found out that the pair of them have been playing golf, even if it's just at their local golf course in Manchester somewhere, he would find them a week's wages each. I don't know if that was a joke or whatever, but it feels genuine when you think of it.
Yeah.
He doesn't mess around when players are doing activities like that because they know he knows that if anyone sees them, they can record them on the phones and put it out to the press and all that. He was very good at scrutinising that, did Sir Alex. We don't have that anymore. So Marcus Rashford, for me, his time is up and he needs to be moved on. It just depends. Are Aston Villa willing to pay his salary? No. Are they willing to pay, 20, 30 odd mil or whatever? I'm fed up with it. And if you are thinking about getting a new contract, I don't know how many years he's got left on his contract. Do not give him a new contract or offer him a new one. If you have to let it run out and don't renew it. Because I'm fed up of the way Marcus Rashford has been acting in recent years for Manchester United. The fact that he didn't go to the Euros with the England squad should have been a wake-up call to him.
Yeah.
And he hasn't recovered from that since then.
Absolutely. And that time that, Amram left Garnacho and Rashford out, it wasn't a personal thing with leaving Rashford and Garnacho out, because you've seen that Garnacho got back in a few weeks later, has started matches since, has come on in big games since. It's back to normal now. He kind of sucked it up, kind of realised that whatever was happening in training, that they weren't up to the level, and fought their way back into Amram. Rashford, you looked to him as one of the leaders at United, and you were like, right, United are going through a difficult spell. Like, we're looking at you. And like now it's kind of all fallen on Bruno, but we're looking at you as well, Marcus, to kind of drag the club back up again here and, go and kick on in the Europa League and go and try and get us back up the table. And it just never happened. And it probably is the right time to move. I think the wage is going to be a big issue. Like, I saw reports around it that he's not willing to take a wage cut, which is fine. That's fine, but it's more that limits your clubs that you can go to. And it also limits the leagues you can go to as well, because probably no one in the Premier League is going to pay that. No one in Europe can really pay that either. In the Italian league, they can't. In the German league, they can't. In Spain, they can't, but only at Barcelona, Real Madrid, and he's not going to either of them. So it is like America or Saudi. And is he ready to go to America and Saudi already? Is that what's happened? But that's the only kind of reality I see, where he keeps the same wage he has or increases it. But yeah, I think it's time to go and we just need to move on. But as we mentioned, when we're going through that for the last 10 minutes or so, there is so many players to move on. And the reality is we just won't be able to move that many on and not be able to bring that many in. And this is going to take an even longer time than if we had won this evening. And not that if we had won, it would have fixed everything, but it might have expedited it slightly. But this has nearly put us back another year or so. So we'll leave it there, Tom, because we could be chatting about this for all evening. And we both want to go to bed. So there'll be, I'm sure, a few more episodes coming up this season. Obviously, we have the Villa game at the weekend. We'll have the other lads on other episodes, I'm sure, laying their emotions on the table in terms of how the season's gone, how the final went, and then preview and review of the Villa game. But Tom, thanks very much for joining me. It's not easy to come on after watching an awful game, but also an awful game that your team losing in such a big game. So, yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.